This video is sponsored by Squarespace. So I know the title of this video is probably triggering, but it's more like a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, and that's because our friend O'Hara from the One Piece community showed us a new way to title our videos, so why not? Just like O'Hara, I can't give you all of the answers, because there's just no way to know all of them yet, but I can show you a lot, and where the series is headed, and what the foundation of the overarching story is, I guess. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to talk about some webcomic spoilers, meaning things that haven't happened in the manga's continuity yet, so, there's your warning. And one small disclaimer before we go forward. There's obviously going to be a lot of speculation and theorizing in this video, and a ton of my own opinions. So just keep that in mind when you're getting upset with what I'm saying, because I just don't want to have to keep saying that throughout the rest of the video. So I'm going to try to break down and explain what the prophecy is, basically like the main storyline of One Punch Man, aside from us just following Saitama's life. So the great seer Shibawa was looking into her crystal ball one day until she saw something that shocked her, and she said, "A storm of calamity approaches, the end nears, the earth is in danger." And then according to Sitch, she grew frightened and had difficulty breathing, and then unfortunately choked to death on a cough drop. But Sitch also says that this prophecy of the earth is in danger basically means something worse than a major earthquake or monster of threat level demon or dragon is going to happen, and within 6 months. Within 6 months. It doesn't literally mean that it's going to happen exactly 6 months from that time. And I think what the actual prophecy is was revealed in the redraw for chapter 115. When Orochi finds that altar beneath the Monster Association, the calligraphy on the wall says, "Crossing the vast expanse of time, our God shall resurrect on this earth when on this altar a worthy sacrifice is offered." So I think that's it. That's the prophecy. A worthy sacrifice will eventually be offered on that altar, and it will resurrect God to earth. Now, before I go into what God could be and what his goal is, let me just talk about how this prophecy ties into other prophecies and things within the series. So when we get a flashback of Psychos in high school, we see her in this library, and she says, "I'll try a new power, the ability to see into the future, the third eye. If this works, then I'm gonna be a second coming great prophet Shibawa." So right there, it is implying that Shibawa is an Esper, like Psychos and Tatsumaki, and that one of the abilities that Espers can learn is the third eye. And I guess Shibawa was a master of the third eye ability, considering that she's helped humanity throughout the years with her prophecies. And with that established, it brings me to Boros. Yep, Boros may have more importance to the story than what we originally thought. So when Boros is first talking to Saitama, he says, "Want to know what I want? There was a prophecy. No one in the universe was left to face me, so I was bored. But then a seer said I could enjoy a challenging fight on this planet Earth." That was 20 years ago. It took time to get here. Now this seer that he went to is looking into a crystal ball the same way that Shibawa was, which makes me think that the third eye ability may be relative to the universe, meaning that there's probably Espers all around the universe, just like there is on Earth, and they too can tap into this third eye ability. But first, let's talk about Squarespace. I'm sure you've heard of Squarespace by now, considering it's so popular, and that's probably because it works. If you've ever been interested in making your own website, I strongly suggest you use Squarespace to do that, because it's super simple and it has an awesome all-in-one platform. And you'll see here that it can help you with so many things, and maybe even give you ideas that you didn't originally have, like publishing a blog, selling online courses, building a community, collect donations, sell on-demand videos, sell memberships. That's another thing that Squarespace does. Showcase your work, promote a physical business, or just sell products. So yeah, if you're interested in checking out Squarespace to make your own website, please use my link in the description. It will give you 10% off your first website or domain. Thanks, guys. And then the third instance that we see of someone tapping into the third eye ability is Psychos, and she has a similar distraught reaction that Shibawa has. However, Psychos goes in a different direction, and I'm paraphrasing, but she's basically saying there's no point in taking over the earth. Humans are awful, they're ruining it, they must be destroyed, there's no choice but to destroy them, this is my mission, It is time the chosen ones eradicate these Homo sapiens. So I'm thinking that the being God is also tapping into this third eye ability and going into these individuals' frequencies. Meaning that Shibawa, the alien seer, and Psychos have all, in a way, have interacted with God. Shibawa possibly seeing what the end goal of God is, Psychos pretty much the same, except God decided to use her as a disciple. But the alien seer may play the most interesting part, because it's possible that God influenced him to send Boros to Earth. Him taking 20 years to get to Earth, that coincidentally lines up within the 6 months of the prophecy, so that Boros could possibly meet Orochi and either be absorbed by him or used in some way to become the worthy sacrifice that is placed on the altar. Because when Orochi meets Saitama in the 115 redraw, Orochi believes that he himself is the god that needs to be resurrected, and not that he's actually the sacrifice. So he sees Saitama as that sacrifice. And hypothetically, if Boros did come to Earth and, you know, he didn't run into Saitama for some reason, and I don't know, he defeats Blast and Tatsumaki, just hypothetically, I guess he would eventually run into Orochi, right? Because I don't think Psychos and Orochi would be cool with Boros, you know, destroying Earth or taking it over or whatever, because that's kind of their thing. So don't you think that if Orochi were to meet Boros, he would probably have a super similar reaction that he did to meeting Saitama? And also, Boros straight up tells Saitama about the prophecy, as does Orochi. So I'm sure they would both tell each other about their own individual prophecies, right? And Orochi brings Saitama to the altar to show it to him, so I'm sure Orochi would do the same to Boros. And also, that would strengthen the story from just a writing perspective, because it would give Boros more of a useful purpose in the story other than LOL, random alien invasion and a cool fight for Saitama to have. You know what I mean? And I want to believe that one is orchestrating this fantastic story that interweaves within itself, but on the other hand, I could possibly be putting too much faith in him. I have done that with mangakas before. But anyway, let's go back to Psychos. So he chose her as his disciple because Psychos was basically like evil, or approaching to be evil at first, and Shibawa wasn't, since she was on the side of humanity. So it's possible that he maybe even killed Shibawa himself. I don't know, you know, it's just something to think about. But the whole sequence with Psychos seeing the vision happens in the webcomics continuity, which the manga's continuity has not reached yet. And I think that when it does, it will be slightly altered to show that God, in some way or another, is like influencing Psychos to create Orochi so that he can be the sacrifice for the prophecy, because Psychos does create Orochi because of the vision that she saw. Although she doesn't truly understand why she's doing it, because she's not aware of the altar and the calligraphy and the prophecy on it. Only Orochi is. So you'll see right there that one is orchestrating this pretty cool story that connects to itself. Now, as for what or who God is and what his ultimate goal is, well, it's not really clear yet. It seems like he's some kind of like interdimensional being, or some kind of cosmic Satan-like figure or something. One thing is for sure, and that he's very interested in the Earth for some reason, and it could be because he needs the Earth to further his agenda. Maybe he like eats planets or drains them or uses them to further his power or something. Not really sure, but he does want the Earth, obviously. I mean, it goes back to the first chapter, which many of us have been speculating about for years, that he's probably responsible for Vaccine Man, who says, and I'm paraphrasing, but the Earth is a living organism. The will of it gave birth to me to eradicate humans for destroying the environment. And that's also a big recurring theme in One Punch Man. Humans destroying the environment, and how monsters, or just, you know, various antagonists throughout the series are against humans for doing that. Homeless Emperor, Vaccine Man. And before we got a lot of information, it seemed like maybe God was the Earth or something, or maybe he just had some kind of altruistic goals for the planet. Maybe he legitimately wanted to save it, and humans were the big bad. Maybe they are the prophecy. Maybe that's why Earth is in danger, and that's of course still a possibility. But given the information that we've received since then, I don't think that's the case, and I'm pretty sure God wants to do something bad with the Earth, and He needs to get humans out of the way in order to do that. And it's very possible that Psychos may have just straight up told us what God's goal for the Earth is. But before I get into that, let me just explain how we're gonna get to that point. Now also, some of this stuff hasn't been revealed yet, and that's because the redraws and retcons of the story have not been completed, so there's some missing links. But I'm pretty sure what I'm going to say is going to happen and tie this stuff together. So in the 115 redraw, Saitama defeats Orochi, but he's still like barely alive at the end, and we see him climb to the altar, and as it's crumbling, it reveals what it truly is, and that's resurrecting God, not Orochi. But cut to many chapters later, and we're seeing Orochi once again. However, he looks very different. He's like in this goopy, amorphous form, and he's referred to as Orochi's heart. This is what I was talking about, how there still needs to be redraws and retcons, because we don't know exactly what leads to Orochi becoming this. What I'm thinking is going to happen is that when we come back to Orochi on the altar, like at the end of chapter 115's redraw, we're going to eventually see God. Either he straight up literally verbally communicates with him, or he just silently bestows this power upon him, this goopy meat root absorption ability that Orochi now suddenly has. And I'm pretty sure God is responsible for giving Orochi this ability, because when Psychos merges with Orochi, she suddenly has this vision of God who appears like as a Jupiter-like surface to her. And she says, "I was afraid, even as a mysterious power filled me. In that moment, I awakened to destiny. I would use this power to absorb all living creatures through these roots and fuse their spirits into a single entity. I will become the ultimate life form, the very planet itself." So considering that this is like not Psychos' original idea, and it's implied that God is giving it to her, this means that this is what God wants. Like, this is his purpose for the Earth. And so it could be a similar motive to Galactus or something. Now, one more thing I want to touch on God before I get into when and how the prophecy is going to be fulfilled, and that's these black cubes that are tied to him. Now, I don't know exactly what these cubes are or where they're coming from, but we do know that there's many of them scattered throughout the earth, and that if you touch them, you're able to communicate with God. And he says if you're worthy, you'll receive his power, but if not, then you receive confiscation, which I guess means death. But also, when Saitama, Monaka, and Flashy Flash touch the cube, they briefly see God for a moment, but he's like in a fetal position and appears to be trapped somewhere. And that could go into what was being said on the altar. Crossing the vast expanse of time, our God shall resurrect on this earth. So resurrect implying that he's not alive, but he is at the same time, so maybe he's like in between realities or something. And then the vast expanse of time could mean the universe, it could mean dimensions, it could mean a lot of things. One thing is clear, and that is God is like not there, but he can somehow communicate with people that are there. And that could mean that these cubes are his own doing, and he maybe scattered these cubes throughout the universe as like feelers, like trying to find intelligent beings and planets that they come from, so that he can use those planets for his agenda. And I guess Earth was one of the places that these cubes wound up on, because we do see that one of the cubes was found by an astronaut in space. And then to finish this video off, I just want to go into how the prophecy will probably be fulfilled and how God will finally be resurrected on the Earth. So during the battle with Sairochi, we see Drive Knight take some of Orochi's cells, and then he dips out of there. Now, what I think Drive Knight is eventually going to do with these cells is like reconstruct Orochi, but also probably make him like a cyborg or something, because that's what the organization does. And if you're confused by that, I'll just say that I think Drive Knight is the mad cyborg, and also tied to the organization. Yeah, I know, it's a story for another video, but he's basically one of the biggest villains in the series, hiding in plain sight. But once he brings Orochi back, we now have the worthy sacrifice once again that is pictured on the altar. And now that he's back, he may or may not have like Orochi's original memories or personality, but considering that he was able to read the calligraphy just naturally, I'm assuming that's still going to be embedded in his cells. So he will always inherently have that motivation of wanting to go to the altar. Meaning that Drive Knight is going to be the one responsible for summoning God, which will probably take us into the final act of the series. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the video, and I'm sure I missed a few things, and even if I was perfect in this video, you're gonna still tell me how wrong I am in the comments anyway, so please let it rip. But if by some chance you happen to actually like this video, please give it a like, and please subscribe as well. Have a great day, guys. I'll see you in the next one.